why don't we move into our next segment?
Great. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move into kind of what we've been up to.
Yeah.
What have you been up to? What's going on?
Cool. Couple things. Watched a couple things this past week. I watched a pilot to a show, and I watched a movie in the theater. What do you want to know about first?
Let's do the pilot.
All right, cool. So, Fox last week aired a new show called Scream Queens, which I'm sure a lot of people have talked about, or heard about, talked about, maybe you watched it. And this was a show that I had mild interest in, I'll say, when I first heard about it. You know, a slasher-type show starring the slasher queen herself, Jamie Lee Curtis. I was in on that.
Yeah.
It's from writer, director, producer Ryan Murphy, who did Glee, which never watched, didn't ever care to. It's on Fox, a network that constantly cancels shows that I like, so I'm always wary to get involved with one of their shows. And then it also, Ryan Murphy also does the American Horror Stories, which I'm lukewarm on. So I was mildly interested in Scream Queens. I figured I'd check it out. But the pilot, the 2-hour pilot, I thought was pretty great. Have you watched it yet?
I have not seen it yet. I'm not a big fan of American Horror Story.
Okay.
So I'm kind of just like, I'll get to it when I get to it. It's not at the top of my list. I'm in no rush.
Yeah. Well, this is a show that it stars, again, Jamie Lee Curtis, Emma Roberts. It's got all sorts of other people in the pilot. Ariana Grande, Nick Jonas, one of the Jonases anyway. Big cast. And it is a slasher show. But what I was surprised about is how comedic the show is.
Okay.
It's got a real Mean Girls type vibe. It's about a killer on a campus, and it follows a sorority, and the sorority is just filled with like your classic Uber bitches, in the vein of like the Mean Girls, or you know, some of the Easy A type dialogue, or like Clueless. It is very much in that vein, and some of the comedy even pushes it further into like almost literally Zucker Brothers comedy. I mean,
really?
it to the point there's a scene where somebody is getting attacked by the killer, and she's texting both the killer to stop and other people to, like, literally as he's like stabbing her, she's like texting like, please don't kill me, instead of just saying it. It's stuff like that where it's just like absurd, but it works. It's actually really funny. Some of the jokes don't entirely land, but it's also relatively violent and merciless in who it kills.
Okay.
It's a really interesting show, and I'm hoping that they're able to keep that tone, to keep the wit, and keep me interested. Because one conversation that we had off camera is how do you keep a slasher show going over, you know, 13 episodes or 20 episodes and then multiple seasons? I don't know how the show's going to work. Everything that I understand is this isn't going to be like Horror Story where it's a one and done season.
We'll see. Now it was American Horror Story until all of a sudden it was.
Yeah, which was really interesting. I mean, I love that they kept that secret that first season, because when they killed off the family, it was like, wait, what? But then you understood. I thought the show had so much balls in doing that, and then I realized that they're going to keep a lot of the same cast. It's going to be a whole new thing. Really interesting. We'll see where Scream Queens goes, but I would definitely recommend you at least check out the premiere, see if it's something you enjoy. Honestly, I think that you would.
Okay, I'll check it out. It's sitting on my DVR.
Cool. Check that out. The other thing is, just yesterday I went and saw Black Mass.
Okay.
Starring Johnny Depp as Whitey Bulger, and a great cast. Joel Edgerton, Benedict Cumberbatch. You have all sorts of other people. It's from Scott Cooper, who directed Crazy Heart and Out of the Furnace. Did you see it?
I did see it.
All right. Let's see.
So I'm curious here. I think it's okay. I don't love it. I think Johnny Depp's great. I think the whole cast is actually it's a great cast. The performances are great all around. But as a movie, it just kind of falls flat. Like, it doesn't really build up to anything. It just sort of, it hits its beats, never goes anywhere, just kind of skims it, and next thing you know, it's,
I sent out a few texts after, and my initial take was, Johnny Depp is amazing.
Yeah.
Movie just okay. Because that's what it is.
Mhm.
And the only reason I'm even taking the time out of this to recommend it is he really is really good in this
Yeah.
movie. I mean, to the point where Johnny Depp is one of the most recognizable actors in the world, and he's almost unrecognizable in this movie. It's totally unlike any performance he's given. It's more dedicated than any performance he's given in who knows how long.
I mean, and this is going to sound like a cliche, but there really were times where I was like, you forget it's Depp. Like, you really do.
There were times I was like, I'm watching in my head what I thought Whitey Bulger was when I heard stories growing up in New England. And you just, and then I would clue back in, hey, I'm watching a movie. Who is this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, that's Johnny Depp. I know that because I know about it. And then I kept on looking like, how could that be Johnny Depp? And it's not just the prosthetics.
It's the whole performance.
It's the performance. He's so unlike anything he's ever done. He's great in it. The movie, I just felt like it's the same crime movie we've been watching our entire lives, told in not a very different way at all.
I mean, it's if you haven't seen it yet, and this isn't really as a spoiler, but I mean, it's told through like people from his organization kind of talking to the police. I mean, they show that in the trailer, so it's really, I don't think that's much of a spoiler, but it feels like, someone's just kind of sitting there and going, and okay, so he went and did this, and he went and did that, and this happened, and that happened.
We've seen, that's how Goodfellas is told. That's how True Detective was basically told in somewhat that way, but with unreliable narrators, which made that very interesting. But we've just seen it, and I feel like they try to cover too much ground. And I also kept feeling like a more interesting movie was there. They kept talking about before the start of the movie when he was in Alcatraz and when they were doing LSD tests on him and it made him crazy. And like there's a scene early on where it's not that big of a spoiler. Somebody dies that's close to Whitey, and they kind of make a comment like, I think it ripped the humanity out of him. Well, show me more of that, right?
Well, and that was the thing too. There was a lot of where they're like, oh, he went from such a small time crook to now he's this big crime lord. You don't see that.
You never really.
He seems to have the same amount of power and act the exact same way throughout the entire film.
And you never really.
You never feel that. You never see it. You never.
He put drugs in the hands of every person in Southie, but you never see him. Like you never see the drugs. You never see the effects of his crime, and I really feel like it's because they tried to cover too much ground. I was reading a bit more about the movie after I saw it yesterday, and I heard that an entire segment of the movie where he goes to California for business was cut out entirely. It apparently had a big relationship subplot with Sienna Miller, who was an American Sniper, and Layer Cake, famous actors. All of that just cut out of the movie, and I wonder if that would have built more on him and his mafia ties.
I mean, if they'd like fleshed out more throughout the film, it could have easily been another half hour, 45 minutes. I mean, it's only 2 hours long. I mean, 2 hours long seems long, but I mean, for like a crime film like that, it's kind of short.
It felt like it was missing things. And you do have some other really good characters. The Joel Edgerton character.
I mean, it's just as much his story as it is Depp's.
Absolutely, but I also felt like both storylines get shortchanged, and every time that they were on him, the Callahan character, I wanted more Johnny Depp because it was just such a mesmerizing performance. As good as Edgerton is, as good as Cumberbatch is and his stuff, and all of that, I just wanted more with Whitey. And that is a definite testament to the performance. I would say see the movie.
I mean,
the movie for the acting.
It's definitely worth seeing. It's just the film is not what it could have been.
I think if maybe a more capable director and a more polished script could have done wonders for this movie. It really could have become a classic. It could have. I mean, think of a movie like Scarface, which will be famous for the rest of our lives, and I don't even think it's a good movie. It's because Al Pacino owns that movie. It really is. He became an iconic character, and I feel like there is an iconic character in this movie.
The movie's just not quite up to snuff for...
It's just not going to do it.
No.
But anyway, do see it anyway.
And if you have seen it, what did you think of it?
Let us know.
Did you like Johnny Depp? Did you like the movie? Did you not like it? Tell us we're wrong. Whatever.
Maybe we're fucking stupid. But in terms of Boston crime movies, you can definitely do better. There's better ones out there if that's what you need for your fix. But what have you been doing this week?
I've been watching a lot of movies. I've kind of spent the last 5 days, 4 days, I don't know, don't even know what days anymore. At the movies, I saw Black Mass.
Okay.
And then I went and saw our local art house theater. Enzine Theater was playing midnight screenings of Turbo Kid. I don't know if you've heard of Turbo
I have
Kid.
heard of Turbo Kid.
If you're wondering, it is not a Jingle All the Way sequel. It is a totally separate thing. It's essentially kind of like, it takes place sort of in a Mad Max type world. It's wasteland after the apocalypse, and people just kind of survive, and it focuses on this kid. It's just kind of him dealing with kind of the crime lord of his world, and he's obsessed with this comic book character called Turbo Rider, and discovers his like suit of armor and has powers and all this shit. It's fun. It's gory. I don't think it's amazing. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more.
Okay.
It's definitely worth checking out. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Like, it's kind of came and went.
Yeah, if it shows up on Netflix. Then.
Yeah, I mean, if it shows up on Netflix, it's definitely worth seeing. The cast is great. The kid's great. The girl in it's great. Michael Ironside in it. He's a lot of fun in there. But it definitely turns up kind of that over the top, low budget gore that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy if you're into that kind of stuff.
Cool.
So I saw that. I saw The Visit.
Oh.
M. Night Shyamalan's newest
Shamalama
film.
Ding Dong.
I don't hate it.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think it's a good movie or a great movie, but I think it's actually pretty decent. If you don't know, there's actually 3 different cuts of the movie he did. He did a pure horror cut, he did a pure comedy cut, and then he did a mash of the two, which the mash of the two is what we got in theaters. The kids are great in it. The whole kind of premise of it is this girl whose mother is kind of estranged from her parents. The grandparents reach out to the mother, and they want to meet their grandkids. And so it's about kind of her daughter making a documentary about meeting the grandparents.
Okay.
So there's a lot of kind of fun, like inside, like filmmaker things where she's like, oh, this shot would be great for like the cinematic opening, and I gotta find my emotional moment, and like this, all these different things in there. So it's kind of poking fun a little bit of that. For 15, I think that might be a little young to kind of know some of that stuff. But I mean, if you're that obsessed with it, it works.
Alright, yeah, you gotta kind of run with it.
It's decent. If it shows up on Netflix, it's worth checking out. It's probably the best thing he's done since Signs or Unbreakable. Not that that's saying...
That's not what I was saying.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
It's better than After Earth, really.
Yeah.
Part of me is intrigued to see that.
Yeah.
On a previous show that I was on, we literally, movie by movie, broke down his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of respect for the guy, but I also have a lot of... I believed in him one too many times.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every new movie, I kept on being like, yeah, but this guy, he did make Unbreakable.
He did this, he did that. Maybe he'll come back.
But we'll see. You know, I'm glad to hear that you liked it. Some other people that I know, I've heard people say that they did like it,
Mm-hmm.
people's opinion that I trust, as well as you. Some other people have said that it's don't believe anyone who says it's garbage still. So at least, you know, his last maybe 3 or 4 movies before that were universally hated, so at least some people are liking this one. That's promising to hear. It is interesting. I was really interested to hear when people started saying that it was really funny.
Yeah.
It had humor. It's the same thing with Scream Queens. I didn't expect it, and maybe we're kind of transitioning into, you know, horror almost more than any other genre moves in waves,
Mm-hmm.
right? You go from monster movies to slasher movies to torture porn, and then it's the cycles, right?
Yeah.
And maybe we are moving back into this horror comedy, which was definitely a phase, you know, with your Evil Deads and your American Werewolf in London and all of this stuff that we had in the 80s. Maybe we're moving back into that phase, and it's not a phase that I'm disappointed to be back in. It's one of my favorite types of horror movies, the ones that also have some fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lukewarm recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, it's if you got nothing to do, free ticket, Redbox, Netflix, nothing else to see, I think it's definitely worth checking out. I wouldn't necessarily rush out to go see it,
Okay.
but I think it's got some stuff in it that's worthwhile. There's some things that take a little far, and there's it's very Shyamalan and kind of the beats that it hits and the twist that it goes in. But I'm really
Does
interested.
it have a twist?
It does have a twist.
Okay. A good twist?
I think it's a decent twist. I've heard some of my friends have thought otherwise. They saw it coming. I was looking elsewhere for the twist, so I missed kind of where it was going.
Okay.
I'm really curious, though, to see the other two cuts. Like, I would actively seek those two out, because I don't know... I want to see the horror cut just because I'm a pure horror cut of this. But I don't know how you do this movie as a pure comedy. I don't want to get into spoiler territory, and I don't want to do any of that, but I'm interested to see how he makes that work, if he makes it work. But I'll be curious if we get something like that later on the road. I would check it out for the other two cuts.
I feel like, yeah. I think the movie definitely didn't set the box office on fire. Maybe if it had, maybe we would have gotten one of those 3-disc deluxe editions.
I mean, it's doing decently well. I mean, my theater was pretty crowded, and
that's good. You know, I think that's also it, and we'll talk about it in our October preview, not to jump ahead, but that might just speak to the lack of horror that's available right now in theaters this close to, now we're not into October, and it's slim pickings. I don't really understand it. I feel like a movie could have came out and just ran away with it.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's good to hear. I would like to, you know, I'm interested to see where he moves from here. We know he's going to do another Blumhouse film with Joaquin Phoenix, so we'll see where that goes. And, you know, I will always defend his first two big movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for those, I will see that movie based on your recommendation and etc. But you saw something else?
I saw a couple other things. Okay. Speaking of horror and slim pickings, I saw Green Inferno.
Oh, that's right.
If you guys don't know, Green Inferno is Eli Roth's latest film. It's a kind of a love letter to the cannibal genre. I don't know what to make of this.
Okay.
If you're a fan of the genre and if you're a fan of Roth, you will leave satisfied.
So you left satisfied?
Mostly.
Okay.
Mostly. I'm blanking on her name, and I'm really mad that I'm blanking on it. The lead actress, I'm going to butcher it if I do it. I can't remember her name right now. I'm kind of pissed. But she is awesome in it. It's a little slow to start. It's probably about 45 minutes before they actually get into the cannibal, like into the tribe and stuff.
Right. And
there's just some really weird, I don't know if they're supposed to be jokes, just like moments that happen, like, and this is really...
So does he try and pull like a Hostel, where the first bit of Hostel was like this like European like road trip comedy?
Not really.
And then it just totally shifts tone? Not
really. The whole premise is it's this girl at college, and she's interested in this guy who's in this like an activist group, and so she goes and tries to join the group, and the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go out into the jungle and try to stop these bulldozers from destroying the rainforest and this untouched land, and yada yada yada, and things kind of escalate from there, and they end up at this tribe. But there's these really weird moments for like, and I don't it's a spoiler, but they're at the tribe, and the one girl's like, oh, I feel sick, and they're all like, she just goes into the corner and just takes like this really long shit. Like, if it had been a comedy, it would almost have been tried to play for like a comedically long,
like Jeff Daniels and Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, like it just kind of kept going, and I'm like, this isn't funny. Is it supposed to be gross? I don't get it. Like it was definitely a deterrent. And like most of Roth's stuff, most of the people in it are assholes. You just kind of hate everybody in it, except for, again, the lead. I mean, she's the most likable person in there, but there's some weird dialogue, and I don't know if it's written to be this way or if it was just sort of them not caring. Like, one of her friends is like, oh, like, that's just so retarded, and that's just so gay, and like, I don't know if they're supposed to be poking fun at these like this kind of person, or if it's just... It's kind of... It treads these really weird lines sometimes.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
I like the idea of Eli Roth.
Okay.
More than I like the actual director, the filmmaker, Eli Roth. I do not like Cabin in the Woods. I
Not Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
To
Whatever the fuck it's called.
his
Cabin Fever.
Cabin Fever.
Cabin in the Woods I do like a lot. It's a great movie. Cabin Fever, not a fan of. Hostel, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hostel 2, okay. But overall, not a huge fan of the guy. Liked him in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
As the Bear Jew. But do you think that there's any chance that I would like this movie?
I think so. I mean, I don't know what your take is on the cannibal genre, if you're into any of that kind of stuff.
Indifferent.
Okay. I mean, I think it's worth seeing. Like we mentioned with The Visit, pickings are slim for horror right now. This is the best one out right now.
Okay.
I would take it over The Visit. Not as gory as I expected it to be, but that might just be because I'm really desensitized to some of the gore. But it definitely has its moments that may or may not make you cringe. And, so one other thing, last night I saw Straight Outta Compton, finally. Yeah.
I'm assuming somebody does that.
Yeah, there's lots of that. You haven't seen this yet?
I have not seen Straight Outta. I was so excited. I was the first one on the Straight Outta Compton bandwagon when that trailer came out. I'm actually a huge fan of their work, and I don't know. I didn't get to go to it. It just the opportunity has not presented itself, and I know that you had to drive a bit further. To see it.
It's playing a little bit further right now. But if you can, go. I mean, it's still playing at Disney and Universal right now, so if you can get out there, go see it.
Okay.
It's 2.5 hours, and it could have been an hour longer. I would have been okay with it being an hour longer. And there's some points where it feels like it's missing some stuff.
Okay.
And I did some research afterwards, and there's talks with the director and stuff that he is trying to get a director's cut made that would put 45 minutes to an hour back in the film. There's a lot of really great moments. Like, I know some people who weren't really sure if they wanted to go to it. They weren't really a big fan of NWA and any of that. I'm like, well, the whole aspect of Straight Outta Compton, that album, is only the first 45 minutes of the film. And then the rest of it it spans probably about 10 years worth of time from kind of the start of it to, I don't want to get into, spoilers, it's a biopic.
Spoilers for real life.
Yeah. But where, like, Dre goes to make Aftermath. Like, it's kind of that span of time, and you see sort of everything that happens. But there's points of it where it's really kind of skimming along, or a character will make a reference and be like, oh, I'm not this, I'm not this. Kind of like you called me out on this, but you don't ever actually see it.
Right.
And I know kind of one of the big criticisms is it removed sort of the way they treated women. Mm-hmm. Like, I know there was some stuff fairly recently, like, Dre's old girlfriend ever saying, he was abusive and all that stuff. And it doesn't go into any of that. It doesn't go into any of the female rappers who were involved with them or anything like that.
That is obviously one of the risks of a biopic being produced by two of the main people that
absolutely
reflecting, right?
But
Ice Cube and Dr. Dre.
And one of the things, though, that supposedly was cut out was a lot of that stuff. Was some of the more treatment of that. But I mean, there definitely paints like Dre and a lot of them in a good light as far as women go for them. I mean, I don't want to say that. Pretty much, other than like 3 women in the film, they're all just party goers and half naked. Just, here's our girls that we're having sex with in the hotel and our party in our mansion and yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. But like his girlfriend at the time and the mother of his daughter, who in the reports later was like, he was abusive and stuff. Like, you don't see any of that. Like, he seems loving and more of a workaholic as opposed to abusive, and that's why she, that kind of thing. Okay. But I think it's great. I mean, it's a great film. Like I said, I could have sat there for another hour and would have been fine with it. The performances are all great. Ice Cube's son.
I'm so happy that this movie was a hit.
Yeah.
Let me just say, and I'm not surprised that it was a hit. I think that we're in a big movement right now with, you hear shows like Empire is literally, breaking the records for network television. And people were so shocked, and people are so shocked that this movie opened to so much money. And, this country is not all just white. And I mean, this is a movie that obviously anyone can enjoy. Mm-hmm. But, the minorities, it's like, I feel like have been ignored in a lot of stuff, and I think that it's great that a movie like this came out and it opened up people's eyes, that there are other stories to be told there. Not every biopic has to be about, you know, J. Edgar Hoover or something. Like, there are other stories out there. We don't need the same thing over and over again. I'm happy that this movie is hit. And I'm not even joking when I say I'm literally, like, excited that F. Gary Gray had a movie like this come about, because this is a man who I think in recent years he's made not the best movies. Mm-hmm. This is the guy who directed Friday, and that movie is amazing, and I'm so happy that, like, he got this chance to make a movie that is so well respected. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's going to be a movie that is getting Oscar attention. It could be.
Like, I was sitting in the theater thinking about that.
It
like,
was a touchstone.
Is this going to be Oscars? Like, I'd be fine with that. I could see it.
It's possible. And then also, you know, like you were saying, Ice Cube's son, all these young actors who
oh my God, they're
nothing.
Great.
And now they're all getting all these opportunities. Mm-hmm. 2 of them are going to be in the Skull Island movie.
Yeah.
And like all of them just like have all these opportunities at their hand now. And that's great. It's awesome that we have this new generation of actors who came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And that people responded so well to it. I can't wait to see this movie. I would love to see it in the theater. If it's still in a theater near you, definitely go see it, right?
Absolutely. You'll want to check it out. Even, like I was saying, if you aren't necessarily a fan of, you know, the Straight Outta Compton album, it's definitely worth checking out. It goes into so much more detail about, you know, their life and I don't want to seem cliche, but you know, their struggles and that kind of thing, and growing up in Compton and kind of coming out of that and making something of themselves. When a lot of people were telling them otherwise, or
but I mean, it is a pretty amazing story that they were able to rise to the levels that they are. I mean, just look at them now. I mean, Ice Cube is still a huge star, right? They aren't as involved in music. Dre still is, but I mean, even like Dr. Dre, like, is a billionaire from Beats Audio. Like, it's crazy that they rose as far as they did. And obviously there's tragedy involved in the story. I mean, I know all about everything to do with them without even having seen the movie, but it's crazy. It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It really
definitely,
is.
if you've seen it, tell us what you thought. Any of the movies we've discussed, what did you think? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Are we wrong? Are we idiots? You know, whatever, let us know.
Yeah, but I guess we're straight out of things that we were up to this week, so let's move on to our next segment.